This is D Grubb and the motherfucking crew, and you are listening to motherfucking sports.
It's the motherfucking pot.
So the word motherfucker is a noun. It describes a person, place, or thing.
What up, crew members? This is your favorite motherfucking host, Beanie Man, aka Mr. Headquarters, back again, straight from the HQ in the 504 on the West Bank. Today we have a special guest, man. We have one of the hardest working sportscasters in Louisiana today, David motherfucking Grubb. For those who are not familiar, please let everybody know where can they find you in all your content.
You know, first and foremost, you go to the podcast, Hard in the Paint. That's the mothership. Everything grows from there. So you can get that wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Podstream. You know, please subscribe, rate us, and check it out. The content has been a little bit infrequent as of late because we're getting ready for a big rebrand. It'll be our 4th season of Hard in the Paint. And so we got a lot of stuff new coming in on the website, hitpwithdg.com. And you can also find me on Twitter at DMGrubb, Instagram at DMGrubb. And both of those also, you got Hard in the Paint accounts that go along with those as well. So, and you can find me at MLBbro.com, where I'm an editor over there, where we cover black and brown ball players there. I still do the Bird Calls podcast with Ali Cosell and David Fisher and Kevin Barrios. And I'm also doing Tulane basketball color commentary. So it's a lot going on.
What you thought about the Pelicans coming up this season? This past season that they just had, a lot of people have been saying it might have been a little bit of luck. They didn't have Zion all year, but they had the emergence of Brandon Ingram. So how did you feel about the overall season that they just had, getting to the first round of the playoffs?
I mean, look, every NBA season has luck involved.
Yeah.
You don't think that the Golden State Warriors aren't a little lucky that the Milwaukee Bucks, you know, Chris Middleton didn't get – if Chris Middleton doesn't get hurt, how different are things?
That was my pick before he got hurt.
Milwaukee's right back there, I believe. Milwaukee was better than Boston. So I believe Milwaukee gets right back to the finals. And who knows what it looks like then? Because it wasn't like the Warriors played amazing basketball through that series. No. They couldn't shoot that great. Steph played great. Jordan Poole had a couple of good games. But who outside? And Andrew Wiggins was very solid, but he didn't shoot the ball like, you know, lights out. So you put Giannis on the floor with that, and you put Drew Holiday on the floor with that, and you put Chris Middleton on the floor with that, and I take the Bucks' chances, and you know that you give me a different series maybe. So luck is a part of everything. So yeah, the Pelicans got lucky because losing as many games as they did, would you make the playoffs normally? No. We had not had a team make the playoffs in the West with a below 500 record in I don't know how many years. So yeah, it was luck in that part, but you give them credit for continuing to play out the string.
Right.
You know, Willie Green said from jump, he was going to look at the season in 10-game increments, and some of them were really bad 10-game increments. And some of them were very good. But the one thing you could say definitively about the New Orleans Pelicans from game 1 to game 87 was that they were a better team. They were better defensively. They had a better sense of purpose offensively. They were more cohesive as a unit. They shed some of the dead weight that was holding them back personnel-wise. They had a clear and direct message from the coach and the coaching staff that they understood. And you have to put in the fact that, as I like to say, Brandon Ingram went from being a statistical all-star to being an actual all-star. His numbers did not look that much different than they had in previous years, but the impact of his numbers, when he got them, where he got them, and how he got them changed, and his attitude changed. The thing that he said, you remember the year before when the Pelicans got their asses whooped, I think it was the Dallas game, like one of them Dallas ass whoopings. And after the game, B.I. said, well, my thing from here going on out is I got to bust everybody's ass in front of me. Remember him saying that in the post game?
I
And it
remember.
never happened. And it was like you just waiting for it to like, and people were like, why are you being hard on BI? And I'm like, no, he said it. I want him to do this. This is the thing that you're waiting for out of a star. You want that star to take on the responsibility and ownership of the team. And it felt like last year, Brandon Ingram took the ownership of the team. Now that becomes my biggest question for this year, is because you are reintegrating a Zion Williamson who has not shown a natural tendency to be the alpha and, you know, to be the leader of the group. Yep. He wants to be part of the group. He enjoys the group.
Yep.
CJ is the older brother, the guy who's making sure that you know the kids don't act up. Y'all know what we're supposed to do and when we're supposed to do it.
That's a good analogy.
Right? BI took over as give it to me guy.
Mm-hmm.
When the play needed to get made, everybody on the court looked to Brandon Ingram, get it to me. I'll make the play. Whatever it's got to be. If it's a shot, if it's a pass, if whatever it's got to be, I'll make the play. That's what people look to him as. So now you've got to rebalance your floor. And I think that's going to be the thing for Willie Green is how do you figure that both offensively and defensively? Because four of your starters on offense are excellent. And one has the potential to be very good in Herb Jones. I think Herb Jones' offensive potential is unlimited.
Yes.
But defensively, four of your starters are mediocre at best as individual defenders. Slightly, you can say that CJ and BI are better team defenders. But Zion has not shown the ability to be an individual or team defender. Jonas, if he's not scoring, the other guy is getting his on him. And we know that. So Herb being the only legitimate defensive player you have in your starting five, that's going to be a lot of creative mix and matching, I think, for Willie Green in making sure that you balance your scoring with guys who can help them by defending.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you have to have Herb in this lineup moving forward, no matter who's in there. I mean, you got to have BI, you got to have Zion and Valanciunas and CJ. So it's like almost by default, it's like you got to have Herb in there to kind of balance things out, protect CJ on the back end. Because if you think about it, he's a smaller guard compared to most other elite guards out there in the league. So I think him being their point guard, their de facto point guard in a way, I mean, even though it's more of a positionless team when it comes to like who's playing point, who's playing whatever. I think CJ will really thrive as that facilitator on this team between him and BI. I think they should definitely stay away from the point Zion theory, it's at least for in the beginning, because I think, Zion kind of creates mismatches and stuff like that, but I think it also kind of opens them up for injuries in another regard, because you put more pressure on him on the offensive end to kind of facilitate, actually make the first step, make decisions before you even get to the top of the key. So it's like, I don't know, I kind of feel like you don't need him to do that coming back. You know, he's had a whole year off. Take that pressure off of him. He's the younger guy anyway. Put that knowledge and all that experience in CJ's hands and let him kind of move and facilitate the rest of the offense, and then kind of let Zion just pick apart players in the paint like he did when his rookie year. His rookie year, he destroyed people in that paint. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be the best part as far as their offense. Defense, I don't know. You don't have a rim protector on this team like a true protector.
None.
Larry.
None. Your best shot blocker. Your best shot blocker is Herb Jones. That's your best shot blocker.
Damn. That's saying a
lot. Look, I'm being serious. Yeah. Herb Jones last year had the most blocks on the team. Okay. Damn. He had more in his rookie year than Jackson's had in any of his 3 years in the league.
Right.
Okay. And Jackson's, again, 7'1". All right.
Right.
Zion is not a shot blocker. We've seen this.
No.
You know, B.I.'s not a shot blocker. Willie is not a shot blocker. Billy Gomez is not a shot blocker. No. So where are your shot blockers? Where's your rim protector? Jonas is not a shot blocker. He is a space eater.
What about Larry Nance?
So, I mean, Larry is a defender, and he can block shots. But again, Larry's only 6'7". You know what I'm saying? So that's not a rim protector at 6'7". He's gonna make it. People aren't fearful of Larry. Larry come that weak side, he'll get you. Mm-hmm. You turn around and he can get that jumper. but he's not going to be this anchor of your zone and have people come in and he's going to keep dissuade guys from driving at the bucket. You don't have a single guy like that on the roster. Your best defenders are all on your bench outside of Herb, because Jose is your best guard defender, but he's undersized. He's not going to get any taller. No. Okay, Jose can become a better basketball player, but ultimately there is a limit when you are his height. There's a reason we don't see finals MVPs. There's a reason why Chris Paul has never won a championship, because look, Isaiah Thomas is still the only little guard to legitimately lead a team to championship in our lifetime.
Now, depending on if you ask a Lakers fan, they'll tell you, oh, well, we didn't win one because XYZ didn't happen with Chris Paul coming to LA. But
I'm just saying, show me in the league. Like, if we want to talk about it, the closest you'll get is Steph Curry, but Steph Curry is still bigger. Steph Curry is a legitimate 6'4", and long and rangy, and his shooting makes him a completely different animal.
That's true. So
Steph Curry we can't even compare him to. He's not. Allen Iverson did the best he could and went down 1-4 to the Lakers. You know what I'm saying?
Not either.
You know what I'm saying? So Jose at 5'10", he can become a better shooter. He can become better at certain things, but there's a ceiling there. There's a hard ceiling for a guy that height in the NBA. There is.
Yeah, it is. I understand that.
Trey Murphy could be your most versatile defender. Him and Herb together as a back line. Think about that, where you could switch those guys from 2 to 5, because Trey's now a legit 6'10".
Mm-hmm.
Now he doesn't want to play center, and I wouldn't play him at center. But I'm saying if you had a quick switch, he can make the quick switch. But 2, 3, 4, Trey with that length, and you saw the way his body has continued to develop since the summer league, and we saw in the playoffs that he was able to make contributions without scoring the basketball. Trey may be your 3rd or 4th highest IQ player on the roster right now, because I think his basketball IQ is tremendous. When his experience catches up, he's a potential star in this league. I just believe that. I think Trey is a potential star. He is your Brandon Ingram insurance, or your Zion Williams insurance. If one of them gets too expensive or too injured to stay, I think that's the guy that you're saying, man, at 6'10", he can shoot, he can put the ball on the floor, he can pass the basketball. We saw him make in the summer league as well.
Yep.
You're looking for a lot out of him. Beyond that, like you said, Larry Nance, still a veteran, has shown injuries. When he's on the floor, you still got to manage his minutes. So he's going to be a 20-minute game guy. But where do you play Billy Hernangomez now? Where do you play Jackson Hayes? Because there's 3 guys or 4 guys who can play the 4 better than Jackson Hayes right now on your roster. And then you still got Dyson Daniels, who is going to play the 1, the 2, and the 3 at different times for this team.
I think Jackson Hayes is actually really tradable right about now, especially at the last season when he had that meltdown in the playoffs. That hurt his stock a lot, especially probably in the locker room, I would think, at least in my opinion. And I think he hasn't that much ceiling. I mean, his ceiling isn't that high, in my opinion. I feel like he can only learn so much. I don't think he's ever going to get a jump shot like he really tries to get to. I mean, I know he shoots threes here and there, but he needs a lot more work on and polish on his game. He doesn't have any type of paint moves, really. Defensively, he can be kind of moved out the way by bigger, stronger centers in the paint, even power forwards. I feel like
he doesn't read defense. He doesn't read offense as well. You see, when the Suns were playing him, he first of all, he didn't get a ton of minutes because DeAndre Ayton was killing him in the pick and roll. Every time they would pick and roll, Ayton was getting right to the bucket. It wasn't even funny. And then if he was guarding the 4, they would let him get out in space, and then they would cut off of him, and he wasn't reading the cuts. So he wasn't a deterrent to anybody. You can, if you get him out in space, he can guard you facing straight up, but that's not what I'm asking for out of my 4.
Yeah, on this team.
You know what I'm saying? My 4 needs to be more powerful. That's why it's called the power forward spot. He doesn't give you rebounds. He doesn't give you blocks. He can only give you points when he's feeling good. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Jax doesn't get into a rhythm, he doesn't get into a rhythm. You feel me? Like you said, he doesn't have that. You can't throw it into him and let him work and make him get a shot and say, oh, now I'm in rhythm. Throw it back into me. It has to be transition. It has to be an alley. It has to be a dunk of some sort. He's still operating. And people keep saying, well, he's only been playing basketball for 5 years now. But if you figure out how to do an East Bay funk dunk and bring it between your legs, if you figure out how to do all those things, make sure you figure out how to set a screen. You should figure out how to box out. Those are things that you should learn how to do because those are the fundamentals of the game, and that requires being in the gym, not going on vacation. That don't mean you're supposed to be out here on IG and doing all these things. It's clear that he's not ready, and the Pelicans are ready to do something. I don't know what the ceiling is, but they're ready to do something, and Jax is not ready to do something. He's ready to try again, and he'll do. I imagine that if we got a full season of Jackson Hayes, what you get is exactly what you've gotten in the past. There'll be games where you go, oh man, that's amazing. But when you are a dude that is Jackson Hayes, has his talent and his skills, and you had half as many double-doubles as Billy Hernangomez, half, and Billy Hernangomez only played in 50 games. You know what I'm saying? It tells you when most of your games you had less than 5 rebounds. It tells you you're not impacting the game in the ways that they really need you to.
And I feel like Willie Hernangomez actually was a really good impact player for them when they needed him in certain key situations. And they had to not play him because they were invested so much in Jackson Hayes. So, quick question. What would you do? What would you trade if you were the GM of the Pelicans right now and you had to trade Jackson Hayes and one other player? Who would you trade him for? Or at least what position or type of player you would trade him for?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you got to move Jackson and Devontae Graham at some point during the season.
Yeah.
And what you're looking for is an experienced big or an experienced point guard, because that's what you don't have. Like I said, CJ is going to play lead guard in a lot of these situations, but I'd like to have a veteran backup, somebody who's run an offense before, so that when we do get into the playoffs, and I need to run a play for Zion, I need Zion to get a touch, I have to make sure he gets that touch, that I'm confident that I've got a point guard who can do that for me. If I need CJ to get a 3, I don't want to have the burden of the ball in his hands. I want to be able to, at sometimes, allow guys to fall into their natural spots. And the Pelicans don't have a point guard on the roster who will allow you to do that in the fourth quarter. Again, Jose is a guy who can give you 15 to 20 very solid minutes. But if he's your point guard in the last 5 minutes of a basketball game in the playoffs, I don't think you're at an advantage there. You might not be losing, but I don't think you're in that advantage there. So, are you going to put Dyson Daniels? Are you going to put Kyra Lewis? Who amongst those are you going to put Devontae Graham? None of those guys have the experience or the height or the skill set to run your offense when it really needs to be run just for a few minutes. And I think every team needs a veteran backup point guard to settle stuff down when things go crazy.
I really like the point guard over there out of Cleveland that missed some time due to injury. I'm blanking on his name right now.
I know you're talking not the one from Sexton.
Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
I think Colin Sexton would be a good addition to this team. Not
money fit is hard.
Money fits hard, but I think he'll be a perfect fit. I mean, he fits the timeline as far as age. He's athletic. He can play a little bit of defense. He can actually facilitate a little bit. He can shoot 3. And I think he would take the pressure off. Now, you probably have to move some other guards to make this work. Devontae Graham would definitely have to be a part of this trade. And maybe even Kyra Lewis would have to be in there too. But I don't know. How would you feel how would you feel about Colin Sexton fitting with the Pelicans? Because that was trade talks before.
I mean, I think it depends. You'd have to get something else, because scoring is not their problem.
Right.
The Pelicans got 4 guys right now who can give you 20 any night of the week. 4 guys. And you got at least, 2 or 3 others who can give you 15 fairly easily. Right. Herb will get you 15. Trey will get you 15. I'm not worried about that. So, and I think scoring is never going to be their problem. So the main thing I'm looking for, and I think that's the Pelicans with the profile that they're looking for. That's the reason they drafted Dyson Daniels. It's the reason they drafted EJ Liddell. It's the reason that they took the guys they took last year. They're looking for a profile of versatile defensive players who have offensive potential, real offensive potential, not to be one-dimensional 3-and-D catch and shoot guys. Herb's not going to be a one-dimensional 3-and-D catch and shoot guy. That's not what Jose is. That's not what Trey is. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what Dyson Daniels is. They want versatility, guys who can put the ball on the floor, who can do something, create with it, and run off the ball. Be there, be available when people are double teaming. Your Brandon Ingram, your Zion Williamson, your CJ McCollum. That's what they're looking for. So if you get into the market, I think if you're trying to find a guard, the guy that I really wanted the Pelicans to get, who signed, I think he signed with, he was with Detroit. Now I'm trying to remember where, DeLon Wright, who I've been trying to get to the Pelicans to sign for years. 6'5", shoots the three over 37%, defends the ball really well, low assist to turnover ratio. Does all the things you want out of a veteran guard. Right. That's a guy that I have just been begging for, that type. And I think that for the Pelicans, there's no rush. You got 15 roster spots full. That's true. You don't have to pay anybody's prices right now. No. You watch what happens with the season. You're a team that has a history of injury. Stay with your depth. See what happens, because I do think that no matter what, it's going to be tough for them to come out of the gate fast, because guys going to have to figure it out. Remember, Brandon's recovering from a finger injury, so he's not going to get to play with Zion a lot in practice. And none of these guys played with Zion last year in a single game. So it's going to take some time over those first 10 games. Now, they can't go 1-12 and all this stuff. But if they go 5-5, 4-6 over the first 10 games while they figure it out, right, and build as the season goes along, then I think once they know, okay, now we know what we have excess of, and let's move on. Because I think that was part of the problem last year, is it took them, at least they were able to find the right time to jettison Nikhil, who had long since overstayed as far as what his abilities were garnishing in exchange to get CJ.
I want him to work so bad for this team. His just
bad basketball IQ.
Shot selection was awful. Man, he had the talent. You can see the potential there, but
that's the thing. Potential will get you fired, and that's the thing with Jackson Hayes. It's not like people is like everybody's hating on trying to get rid of Jackson. It's about basketball. It's not about the person.
Yeah,
the Pelicans are trying to win a championship with the. If you've got CJ McCollum on the roster and you extend him, you figure you maybe got 3 more years with this group. Okay. So if I'm trying to win a championship within 3 years, there's going to be some movement on this roster. Look at the teams that have won a championship. None of them look the same as they did from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
More than half of those guys are gone. So more than half of the people Pelicans fans love that the 12 are shouting for, more than half of them will be gone if this team ever wins a championship. So don't fall in love with too many of these dudes. Somebody you got a jersey for, somebody, one of your favorite players, is going to be wearing somebody else's jersey if and when the Pelicans hold up the trophy.
Willie Green. We talked about it on our show maybe about a year ago, of how happy I was with Willie Green moving from SVP Stan Van Gundy to Willie Green. It was a much needed improvement, a younger, fresh basketball mind, a guy that's actually a player's coach, especially in this type of NBA now that we have. SVP was just too much of a. I mean, I think everybody knows the narrative that was out there. He just was too much of a hard ass for some of these players to kind of grasp his leadership that he was pushing out there. And now that Willie Green has taken over, and we've seen the highlight of him in I think it was the play-in game, him with the speech right before they went to that 4th quarter win over San Antonio, I believe it was. I'm blanking on who they would play, but that speech that he had in that game kind of helped spark them win that play-in tournament, and then eventually get them into that first round game against the number 1 seed. So how do you feel about the long-term effects of Willie Green in this smaller market? Do you think he can push the Pelicans to championship aspirations every year that he's here?
I mean, look, it's hard to win a championship in the NBA. Let's just preface it with that.
Right.
But if I told you could get a 10-year run like the Sacramento Kings had, or the Memphis Grizzlies had, or a 20-year run like the Portland Trail Blazers had, or a 20-year run like the Indiana Pacers had, or stuff like that. Not where you necessarily got a championship, but you made it to the finals. You made it to the conference finals pretty regularly. You always were a winning team. You were always a team that was exciting to watch. You always had interesting players.
Right.
And it was led, for Rick Adelman in Portland and in Sacramento, and In Milwaukee, they did it with a couple. I mean, not Milwaukee. In Memphis, they did it with a couple of different coaches. Obviously, Jerry Sloan did it in Utah for 20 years. You just have to find people who are good talent evaluators and let their coach be their coach. And that was the consistency that you saw in years, and even in the NFL. There's a reason Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. Because at the very least, he knows ownership is going to let him do his job. They may not always agree, and I guarantee there are times when they don't. But ultimately, he knows that he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. And I think if the Pelicans have finally given Willie Green that kind of confidence, because Alvin Gentry never had that kind of confidence. He knew, I think Alvin knew going in that something wasn't right. Because I talking to Alvin before he was fully ready to go. Alvin thought he was done. I think he was surprised to get asked back. So something's hanging over your shoulder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For Stan Van Gundy, it was very apparent very quickly that the thing was over your shoulder.
I'll say this.
If Willie Green doesn't have that, if he gets the ownership and it feels that if he's been given that, and it feels like David Griffin has taken a step back in the right way, not in the way that when you're looking for him, you don't find him. He's taken a step back and let Willie step to the front in these conversations and in ownership of the team in the right way. Right. Then I think you can have that kind of success.
I agree. And I'm glad you brought up Alvin Gentry, because damn, he's had I feel like he had a fucked up situation in the last two situations he's been in. The Pelicans should have did him a favor by letting him go when they had the new regime came in. Everybody knew he was not the future for this team. He was a lot older than a lot of these players on this team. The writing was on the wall. It made no sense to have him on that team as a coach, because you knew with Zion, you don't want to have all these different coaches. He's already on his third coach right now. So I feel like it was a bad disservice to not only the team, but also to Gentry himself, and then him going to Sacramento and dealing with that mess, which is damn it, even worse than what happened here. So I feel bad for him as a coach, but I don't know. I feel like the Pelicans have a great opportunity moving into this next season, because they have so much talent. The expectations is so high. It kind of reminds me that year after they ran through Portland when Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday.
See, I didn't have high expectations after that year.
Really?
I did not, because I knew.
As a fan, I did.
See, and that was, and I knew what was, I guess, because I was privy at the time of what was going down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That I knew that the seeds had been laid, had been sown for discord behind the scenes. Right. That Anthony was never bought in. You know what I'm saying? He was never bought in. This group, you saw last year, I think you saw the difference in the runs, was that this was 1 through 15. All these guys were part of this run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That year was different because it was really driven by that. We kind of pulled Rondo, AD, and Drew out, and they made them the focus. Remember, all the interviews were AD, right. Rondo, Drew, AD, Rondo, Drew. This group, you couldn't do that because they wouldn't let you. If you were interviewing this guy, then two other dudes was gonna stand right behind him while he was doing an interview. If it was BI, somebody would come over. That was completely different. It was real. It was real in that regard. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that carries over every year from year to year. It's not. It's a new season. New challenges will happen for this group. It's an office. People work. There will be new conflicts, like in any other office. You know what I'm saying? But you also have to think. I would say my best case scenario is that this team wins 52 games. The low end is around 44. If everything goes right, and you think about that, people say, "Oh, you're undercutting them." I think this is a team that Golden State's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Okay, they're going to be back next year. The Clippers are going to be healthy. Like, people forget, the Clippers are going to be healthy. They were over 500 and weren't healthy.
That's true.
They had no Kawhi. They missed Paul George for half the year and were still over 500. Now they're going to be healthy, and they added John Wall, who I'm not saying is going to be an all-star, but it's still, you added John Wall to the mix of that. You're going to be better. You're going to be better. Denver is going to be better because Jamal Murray will play at some point this season. Michael Porter Jr. will play maybe, at some point. But even if he doesn't, again, you still have the reigning MVP who has dragged that team to the top 5 in multiple seasons. Memphis is going to be back. Like Dallas is going to be back. It's not going to be easier. The only teams in the West that you could say have gotten worse is right now Phoenix and losing Ayton. Well, Phoenix matched, excuse me. So they matched. I'm sorry. So even Sacramento has gotten better on paper. So I mean, and the Rockets are no longer the completely bottomed out Rockets. They had one of the best first rounds in recent memory. Almost. So you give the Rockets that group and maybe some direction this year and not have to deal with James Harden, deal with all this and these things and that and all that. The Rockets could be better if they win more games. That means it's harder for other teams to win games. And the Pelicans were still a below 500 team last year. If you go from below 500 to near 50, man, count your blessings. Don't poo-poo that. Don't think that that's a bad thing. If the Pelicans go from 34, 35 wins to 50 wins, come on, man. You can't be greedy and think that's a disappointment.
I would be happy with that. I ain't gonna lie. I would be happy just to be able to hover around the play-in game around that time. I mean, but this roster is still extremely young. Yeah, you got CJ on there and Valanciunas, but it is still an extremely young team. And
he had a 5-game winning streak in 6 years. If you can't win 5 games in a row, every team in the league has had one. The Rockets had one last year. They had a 7-game winning streak. Like those are steps on the road to respectability. Am I right? You got to be 500 at home or better. They were not, you know what I'm saying? The Pelicans weren't that last year. You got to stop losing to really bad teams on the road, which the Pelicans still do. So those are things that are part of the process. So if you pick up 15 wins over the course of a year, man, please don't be greedy. Like it's still a process. Look how long it took for Giannis to get a championship. Look how long it took for Steph to get a championship. Look how long it took LeBron to win a championship. You don't have an MVP on your roster yet. Name me a team that won a championship in the last decade that didn't have at least one MVP on the roster.
I can't think off the top of my head right now.
There you go. Name me a team that didn't have a first-team all-defensive player on their roster. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about.
That's true.
That's what I'm talking about. The Pelicans have to earn those things. Herb can be a first-team all-defensive player. Absolutely. Yeah. Zion, he's got these escalator clauses in his contract about getting an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, or he's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. If you think that's going to happen this year, like that would be amazing for a guy to take a year off and come back and win Defensive Player of the Year.
If he could take that big of a jump, please.
If he can do that, MVP, you'd have to say again, is probably not likely because the Pelicans are not going to finish with one of the top 4 records in the league. He's not, and you would think that Brandon Ingram is going to siphon some of that stuff too. If B.I. is playing B.I.'s way, then he's going to be, people are going to be like, who's better? Remember when AD and Boogie were going at it and people were like, no, Boogie's the MVP. No, AD is the better player. It's going to happen in that way too. So those things happen. Giannis is still alive. Steph is still alive. Jokic is still alive. Luka is still alive. Look, Zion coming back from a year off and winning MVP. Now he can make all NBA. But again, it takes usually 2 of those.
Yeah.
Look, the Warriors on that roster, you're talking about 5 former All-Stars. You're talking about 2 MVP, where you have Steph with his MVP. You have Klay as an all-defensive player. You got Defensive Player of the Year in Draymond. You've got 6th Man of the Year in Andre Iguodala. He's been an all-star as well in the past. Even if it's not current, that lineage, those bona fides mean something on your roster. The Pelicans have 2 all-star appearances on their entire roster. You know what I'm saying? 1 for Zion, 1 for B.I. They don't have an all-NBA team appearance. They don't have an all-defensive team appearance. They don't have anything else. CJ has never made an all-star team. Jonas has never made an all-star team. They have 2 all-star appearances on the entire roster.
I forgot about that. CJ has never made one. That's a good point. Well, we'll see what happens.
That's not to down talk the team. I'm just saying, let's just if you're going to compare champions to what it takes to be a champion,
right?
Then you have to look at your roster and say, what are we missing? So this is why it takes some time. They're still going. That's why I say that turnover is still going to take place, because you got to find those other pieces that you need. And some of these guys will mature. That means they take somebody's place. Jonas probably won't be here. That's just realistically speaking in 2 years when you are championship ready. You would hope that somebody has seized that center mantle from Jonas Valanciunas, who would be in his mid-30s by then. You know what I mean? If you're following a championship arc. Very true. Like there's going to be some turnover.
Yeah. One last thing I will say, I think that they have a lot of potential. I think this current roster right now is not going to be the final roster by the time that obviously it's not going to be the final roster. I think there will be at least one significant trade is going to happen either before the season starts or during the season. I truly believe that part. So whether it's a starter or a bench player that's going to impact the team, I do think that's going to happen. I don't see Jackson Hayes or Devontae Graham. I agree with you on that one too. I don't see them two being on this team past all the way up to the playoff time.
Would you want to make Jackson Hayes that restricted a free agent offer? Because he's going to ask for it all. Somebody's going to offer him it all. You know what I mean? Because that's the NBA. Somebody with a lot of cap space is going to say, we'll take a shot on the big, long kid who can you run up the floor like that, and they'll throw a whole bunch of money. And you're the Pelicans. Are you going to offer him that? And you can't offer him minutes. That's the thing, is you can't offer him minutes. You can't offer him 30 minutes a night.
Well,
so it's either minutes or money.
I will say this. It does depend on whether or not Zion stays healthy too. If Zion's hurt, but if Zion if Zion comes out the gate and starts missing games and Jackson Hayes has to play, and he plays well, then that narrative kind of changes a little bit, just a little bit.
But then his value is still to the Pelicans, though.
True, that's true.
And his value relative to the Pelicans versus his value to the league.
That's true.
Again, and what matchups does he get played off again? This is dude who had he had 4 doubles last year. I mean, just 4 people. 4, man. 4.
He is a highlight reel. So a lot of times people kind of get, they get shocked and awed by the dunks and
they remember his games better than they are. They remember because they come in flourishes. All his stuff comes in real fast, doesn't it? It's like dunk, 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 in 4 straight possessions. You're like, oh, Jackson went crazy. And then at the end of the game, that's all he had was those 4 dunks in that stretch. He didn't do nothing in the first quarter. He didn't score in the fourth quarter. He had them 3 dunks that you saw in the third when the Pelicans went on a run, but he didn't do nothing else. He had 2 rebounds. He didn't block a shot. He didn't get a steal. He didn't go to the free throw line. None of that.
I heard y'all had this argument on one of your other podcasts about the fact that between him and Larry Nance, it's like Larry Nance is a way better player, but Jackson Hayes is going to give you he's on SportsCenter more. So of course that's why they kind of have that value. Like you said, he has that value of the what if value versus we know what Larry Nance is at this point in his career. So
and to me, as a coach, I want to know what I have. If I'm trying to win. You know what I'm saying? If you really have aspirations of winning, you better know what you have. When you are trying to build a team, you're trying to find out what you have. And that was last year when Willie was trying to find out, what am I working with here? Now you're trying to win something. Who's with me? Who are the guys that are going forward now? And I think that's going to be the big question for this season.
Yeah. Like I said, expectations is going to be fucking high this year. I expect I will be there. I ain't gonna lie. I will be there opening day. I'm gonna be in the Smoothie King Arena, and seeing if they can kind of bounce back and not have this shitty start like they had last year. That 1-12 start was off. That was hard to watch at some time. But once again, thanks for coming on. Make sure y'all tap in with this episode and subscribe, like, and download and share this motherfucker. Check it out. Once again, I'm your motherfucking host, Beanie Man, a.k.a. Mr. Headquarters. That's David Grubb. And make sure y'all tap in with him. As always, it's the motherfucking pod.